All right. Joe Wallace.
That is a big 10-4.
All right, so hold on. Before we get into the topic of the day, Sarah's phone fell in the ocean?
Yes, man. Did I send you the picture?
Nah.
Okay, so it started as... I don't know if you've watched any of my videos at my beach house.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you know how it's on a canal, right? And I got a boat dock and I got a boat lift and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, I don't know if you know this, has been an avid kayaker since we moved out here. She goes on Lake Wheeler all the time, and
well, I knew she did the the stand-up paddleboard stuff.
Right, she does that too. But she got into kayaking. I think she might have even like when we went on to the houseboat and all that. I rented her a kayak for her, and she likes to get up early in the morning, put on a baseball cap, a life jacket, get a cup of coffee, and then hit the water with the kayak. But she likes to take pictures, so much so that they're really good. Like our phones have really incredible cameras on them, and so she has like pockets to put it in, and I even think I bought her an armband to like slide the phone in when you're not using it, so you don't have to worry about it. Plus, our Samsungs are waterproof to a point, and so she was at the beach house working on it. Like we haven't been down there for a while, so it needed a lot of yard work, and we had a cleaning crew go through there, so she had to make beds, and we had stuff installed on the house. So she was going down there literally to work. But we also had 2 kayaks sent down there. So we got kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, all kinds of beach stuff at the beach house. Some of it came with the beach house, but we got 2 brand new kayaks down there. So we got some here at this house, and we got some down there. So I was at my parents' house Saturday morning, and I was working on their plumbing. And all of a sudden, she sent me that picture of there was like a fog. Here, hold on one second. Let me just so you give you a little perspective. Let me see, and here it is. And you should have it within 2 seconds. So there's like this mist, and she's literally at our boat dock in the kayak, brand new. I don't even think it's been used yet. But she's like I said, experienced kayaker. And she sends me this picture, and I'm talking to my mom as I'm working on their plumbing. I'm like, oh man, what a cool picture.
Oh, that's beautiful, dude.
And I showed my mom, and then my dad goes, hey man, will you crawl under the house and look at some stuff? So now I'm under their house. And all of a sudden I get this weird icon on my phone, this notification icon. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen that before. And I click on it, and it's Google Hangouts. And it's Sarah, who just sent me the picture a few minutes earlier, and she goes, yeah, I dropped my fucking phone in the canal. It's gone. With the fishes. And so the only way I had to communicate with her, because we have no landlines at that house, is she happened to have her work computer with her in case she had got some work. And if she was at her laptop using Google Hangouts, other than that, no contact at all. But she did not have insurance, and
back everything up.
Our beach house is literally near nothing. The nearest real town is about an hour, which is Wilmington north, and about 40 minutes south is Myrtle Beach. We got little cow towns in between there, but nothing with like Verizon store or anything like that.
So did she have everything backed up?
Yes, dude. So she just got it last night when she was driving back into town, and that made me second guess, because I'm a big USB plug into my computer, drag and drop kind of guy, and I'm like, it's been working fine all this time. I've never broken one phone. She has literally broke every single phone that she's had. This is the one that she's completely lost. Like she's smashed, I think, the glass of every phone she's ever had. So
I know Sarah, but is there a temper thing that you've never told me about?
No, she's just hoss. She's just very rough with things.
So to summarize it up, you sent her to the beach house to get some work done.
No, she went herself.
You said, go get some work done.
And she took it out on a $1,200 phone.
Jeez. I'll tell you, that sucks.
So she bought a new one, and of course she got insurance on this one, and now I back everything up to the cloud. So lesson learned, man.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is probably about as good a place as any to get started with our topic of the day.
It's the topic.
So, topic of the day. Let's see where this takes us. But I want to talk about grunge. You and I have offlined this topic quite a bit, and I've been thinking about it. So, after 10 years, I say 10 years because if you think about it, like let's just say like hair rock. honestly started, it started finding its vibe and its thing. Let's just say around 83, and because up until then, it was still just kind of rock, but around 83, things started getting crazy. So 83 to 93, man, that's 10 years. Maybe it was just the market saying, hey, we're ready for something new. And I think there's an element, of that, but I also think there were some other forces at play. So let me ask you, when that shift happened and we went from, rock bands where it really was all about sex, drugs, rock and roll, flashy guitar solos and large personalities. How did that impact you at all, or if at all?
That is a really good. Well, as you know, I'm a good guitar player. I do not see myself as a great guitar player. I can be, meaning I don't have super melodic leads like matter of fact, I was talking about Randy Rhoads with my daughter this morning and why he was so important, because Crazy Train came on when she was eating breakfast. And she goes, I know this song. And I told her all about Crazy Train and Randy Rhoads. So prior to grunge, which did we say we're going to say grunge, but not hair rock?
Yeah, we'll say grunge.
Okay. Prior to that, the bar was set so high with even like Night Ranger and Styx and Kansas and
damn, dude, you got a call center in your house?
Goddamn, telemarketers call my house like crazy. I apologize for the phone in the background. Your Vinnie Vincent.
Vinnie Vincent, Vivian Campbell, Adrian Vandenberg. You got some incredible
hair
guitars.
Guys were amazing. I mean, Gray White. I wouldn't even call them hair. I mean, they were just next level guitar players. And I was learning. I was still just a drummer in 83. I mean, I was toying with guitar, but kind of as a joke. And so when I was trying to learn guitar, of course, there was your AC/DC and there was, but I mean, even like Ozzy, you're going, okay, I'm going to play some Ozzy and Randy Rhoads. I mean, it was just not, and then it goes into Jakey Lee. I mean, so the bar was set so high that leads were not something that I'd even attempted at that point. And then in the 90s, I moved here and I was a lead guitar player, but I was still just very basic leads. And then when grunge hit, it was just ironic because I did not I had the songs written, but I did not have any of the leads done. And I'm like, the song flows fine enough as it does. So your question was, did it affected me on a personal level, but as a fan, it opened my eyes, not necessarily to a new, because to me, grunge is just hard rock. It's true. When you say classic rock, grunge comes in the mix on my Echo downstairs and my Amazon. It opened a new style of songwriting, which leaned more towards the leads for grunge have a hardcore, in my opinion, taste of punk, because we were listening to PIL and Black Flag.
But is it grunge then, or is it just punk?
What's that, my friend?
Is it grunge then, or is it just punk? See, that's the leads? Thing. Well, no, here's the thing. I think grunge was an incredibly small group of bands, because of a lot of bands that get lumped into it, you could say, well, technically that's not grunge, that's just punk. And then there's another group where you could say, right, well, that's just a new form of metal.
And then you got Mudhoney and bands like that, which were dreamy kind of, that didn't fit in also. Dude, we've talked about this for many years now. And the more I think about it, I agree with you. I think it was marketing.
Here's the thing. Yeah. And I've tried to really say, okay, maybe not. Maybe it was just time. The market was sick of it. There were some events going on. You had the Persian Gulf War in 91. You think about throughout the 80s. Yeah, we lived under the specter of, any given moment there could be a nuclear war. But that's not the same as knowing that the people that you were in high school with this year or next year are going off to war or something. So maybe the Persian Gulf War in 91, you look at kids that were coming into high school as freshmen that year, maybe it put them in a different mindset where, they don't want party rock or just that rock that we got used to. They wanted something that was a little bit darker. And
it was a game changer. I agree. It truly was, because maybe that was something that was going on. And were you familiar with the Raleigh scene in 93?
I was not here in 93, but I had lived in Virginia. So I was aware of bands like, I remember, Cry of Love.
Yes. Were you familiar with COC, Corrosion of Conformity?
Yes.
Were you aware of the album that came out in 93 or 92? It might have been maybe even 91.
Blind or Deliverance.
Dude, that album, because prior to that, COC, and the only reason dude, we were such posers because we had they had the coolest logos and, so we had them on our, the patches and the posters and all that. And they were hardcore punk, more so than Suicidal. And then they came out in like 92 and they sounded like Raleigh, even though they have, the Keenan Pepper and things, Pepper Keenan and that, who's Now and Down. And they had that like Louisiana flavor to it. But there was also bands like Confessor.
There was a short window there where,
we had a sound.
Yeah, Raleigh was starting to get a sound out there.
We did.
But grunge killed that too.
Yes, well, because I think it was overshadowed because of the marketing
and
the need of something different. I think, like you and I were saying, I think we said we're going to call it hair. The hair metal, the sales were declining. It was becoming too stereotypical, to the norm, and the sales were down. And they needed something not super aggressive like Pantera or God, who was around then? Tesla already had their thing. Def Leppard was on the way down. So grunge came, and dude, they're great. But dude, Soundgarden is not grunge to me, my friend.
But here's what I question though: was it really that they were? That's where I don't know if they were really down. I just don't know because I looked at grunge when it first came out. So first off, to kind of backtrack where I went through. Yeah, in the 80s, especially when you're a young teen and you're growing up as a guitarist and you've got your high school band and all the local bands, there was absolutely a big dick contest that would go on in the mall. You and your band buddies.
100%.
You'd go to the mall and you'd see the other bands from the area there. And if you were the lead guitarist, there was always that feeling that, you had to be the most badass dude, that strapped on a guitar.
Yes.
And so there is some type of relief that we got past that, but at the same time, it was also fun, and it pushed people to really explore and try to find new ways of doing new things. When we started moving into grunge, I'll be honest, it took me a bit to adjust because it bored the piss out of me. I mean, all of a sudden we went from trying to learn, come up with cool intros to the verse, to the bridge, going into the chorus, back to the bridge.
You are so right.
And you had all these pieces that you would think about, and then grunge came in, and it wasn't even a matter of thinking about stuff. You just kind of, it's going to sound horrible, and I don't mean it as bad as it sounds, but you just kind of barfed up on the paper and said, here's a song. And in fact, there's almost an attitude of, I'm going to do the best I can to make this as basic as I can because I just don't give a damn. And that was grunge. Now, I question if it was really a matter of the broader market saying, hey, this is what we want because of how short-lived. In fact, I was thinking about it right before you jumped on. It's almost like true grunge, that 3-year window. It's kind of like, when you get out of a relationship and you go through that single period and then you start thinking, you know what, maybe I'm tired of being alone, but maybe I need somebody. So you start dating somebody, but in your mind, that's not the person you're going to really.
Oh, friends with benefits.
Yeah, it's a friends with benefit. It's that interim lover, And I think that's what grunge was. I think it was just the interim lover until we got to something better 3 years down the road.
I think so as far as the average public, because as a drummer in 83 and as a guitar player in 93, 83, you got to remember Neil Peart. You're also dealing with people like who else was Neil Peart, Alex Van Halen with as many drums as possible. So there was also the big dick thing going on with drummers too in 83. Oh, yeah. And we'd see them in the mall because there was also 2 dudes that were trying to be the baddest drummer when I was around too. And we had the same, and I was a senior in high school.
Oh, Nick Menza of Megadeth. We've talked about that.
Yes. Oh, well, here's the thing. I did the exact same thing. I was as a drummer and a guitar player when grunge came out. I remember I told you I totally disregarded it. I didn't because I was really getting into Ministry and darker industrial Godflesh and stuff like that. But then remember I told you the story and I came back around. I was tripping on acid and I was at a party and they had 10 was on. Dude, the guitar work on Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, the leads might not be, well, they kind of show off in Mad Season, but dude, that's excellent product. And then I went back and the drumming on Louder Than Love by Soundgarden listen to it again. It doesn't sound complex. It is freaking incredible. That's why I kicked myself in the butt. And that's why I'm so happy you chose this as a subject this evening, because I instantly disregarded it. And it was many years later, like you said, it was short-lived. After it was pretty much gone, I decided to jump on and when I mean jump on the bandwagon is actually purchase the disc and stuff like that.
But see, check this out. So, and to be clear, there were, and again, I don't know what to really call grunge or not, because I don't think of Soundgarden and Alice Chains as quote unquote grunge.
No,
but
they were the monsters of rock. Jerry Cantrell is a beast on the guitar.
And I love these bands. I really did. But what I guess the thing that I always come back to where it got a little bit bitter for me is, you know, in order to make wave and bring room in for grunge, we literally killed another genre of music. And people have told me, well, the same thing happened to disco. Yeah, but I don't think that's really the same thing, because you could look and say, okay, in the 70s, you had Southern rock, you had just your typical pop rock, and you had metal. And then when the hair rock bands came in, it's not like metal or Southern rock or just traditional pop rock disappeared. They continued to live in that. Nothing actually got killed when hair rock evolved. Unlike when grunge came on, suddenly you had an entire genre just get killed, which is what has made me always wonder if there's some other motive behind it.
Well, when we talk hair rock and we talk grunge, we're also talking about areas of the United States and scenes and fashion and marketing and that. So rock and roll is such a broad umbrella per se, and metal is such a broad because during the 80s and 90s, Faith No More was still there, and Faith No More I cannot categorize.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think they were ahead of their time? I mean,
oh my God, yes.
What?
Oh, dude, I'm still listening. Dude, I just played Chinese Arithmetic for the millionth time downstairs 2 days ago. Dude, I was not sick of that album.
I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this a lot. If you look at the 90s, it's almost like the 90s was just a churn of music. There were so many bands that came in out of the 90s that you could make the argument that if they had launched this last decade, they probably would have gotten a much bigger push. There's just a washing tub of just things twirling around in the 90s of different styles and sounds.
Well, this is the era of the soundbite. So they would have downloaded singles back then. If you heard, like, let's just say Faith No More, you heard, what was the Epic? You heard the song, you buy the album and you're like, holy shit, there's 9 other good songs on this album that, like Chinese Arithmetic, I've never heard that on the radio. That is literally the jam on that album. Everybody likes the other songs on there. And now if you hear a song, now you click a button, you got it.
Exactly.
You're not forced because you spent $13 to listen to the other 12 songs on there.
Well, one of my TikTok followers actually shot me a message this week and said, do you remember a band Taproot? And I said, yeah, I thought about it for a second. Like, yeah, I do, but it's vague. So I went back and I pulled them up and I was like, oh yeah. And it hit me. It's like, I think it was like 98. He's like, this is another great example. If these guys had come out 10 years later, it probably would have been, it was just a slightly different, just different sound.
It brings us full circle because I think, like, Faith No More is so weird, but so excellent. That is totally a local band. That's an LA band. And I swear, the whole grunge thing, and in the movies, the swingers and all that stuff.
Singles. And
it's marketing, man. Faith No More, I'm sure it was someone they knew, or they happened to get on the right tour at the right time, or the right person was in the audience, or, I think grunge was just an inflation of someone saw it through whoever was the first band to go up there and said, well, if you like this, there's 6 other bands in Seattle. Let's throw them up. Well, I don't even know if Nirvana was the first one, but they definitely were the one that was the game changer.
No, they weren't the first ones. But, that's the thing. When it first, again, this sounds horrible, but when I first started hearing some of these bands, my immediate reaction was their finished album sounds like the demo that my high school band created 4 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of they threw it. That's what I think one of the appeals of grunge. Now, let me ask you this: when you say the word grunge, what is the first band that pops in your mind?
Nirvana.
Yeah, me too.
But I know they weren't the first, but they became
exactly.
They became the model.
If someone never heard it and they go, hey, have you ever heard? And you want to give them an example, and that would be the example. Because, dude, for them to throw Soundgarden and Pearl Jam Mad Season. And I did not think, I read it pissed them off, whether that's true or not, but it got them album sales. But I heard Soundgarden on, what was it on MTV? What was the show? It was on every Friday night at 10 o'clock. Metal.
Headbangers Ball?
Headbangers Ball. Yeah. Dude, Louder Than Love came on.
Ricky Rockman.
Came on at some ungodly hour of the morning, and I lived alone. I had a house in Kansas, and Louder Than Love. If you've never seen a video, dude, Chris Cornell's wrapped up in electrical tape. And it's just them playing live, whether it's live. And I never heard, and that was my first taste of grunge. And I fell in love with that. And when they started throwing, dude, and then many years later is when I saw Monsters of Rock. And I'm like, I don't even know who else. Oh, Man in a Box. Fuck that. I didn't even associate it as the same thing, which I heard years before, as Soundgarden, as the same. I didn't give a shit. Soundgarden was Soundgarden,
What's funny is, we talk about how certain grunge bands, they hated being labeled grunge. And we could run down a list of bands that hated being labeled glam, like, Slaughter.
Slaughter. Tesla. What was Udo? What was the guitar player? Nino.
Are you thinking of Nino Betancourt from Extreme?
I'm sorry.
No, Slaughter was Tim Kelly, and then
I thought he was in Slaughter. Anyways, I apologize. Yeah, you're Slaughter. Yeah, glam band.
Tim Kelly, and then Jeff Blando.
Wow.
Yeah. Slaughter was listed. And here's the thing: you go to Wikipedia and you look up, what defines a glam band, and it's something like spandex, pink, androgynous, appearance, and they literally say that is typically not associated with the blue jeans and leather of rock and roll. But then you pull up Slaughter, they're on blue jeans and T-shirt. Tesla, blue jeans and T-shirt, and Tesla's also listed as a glam band.
They did throw Tesla.
And it's like,
that was one of the best concerts I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, Tesla, I caught them as an opening act.
So did I for Def Leppard.
They stole the show. They did. Were so good. They were so good.
They only had that one album, and that album was insane.
They had The Great Radio Controversy, and they had Mechanical Resonance.
Oh, my Mechanical Resonance.
At that time.
Oh, my God, what a great album. Beginning to end.
Both.
And
yes.
You know what? When you said spandex and pink and lipstick, dude, that's David Bowie, Alice Cooper, and not Peter Criss, but what's the singer for Kiss?
Twisted Sister.
Paul Stanley.
Yeah, Paul Stanley.
Yeah, they're not glam.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was an interesting thing, and I'll be honest, it felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, it felt like that transition was fast. Like within months, all of a sudden you sensed everything was changing. It was not a subtle.
Are you talking from grunge to from hair to grunge, or grunge to
hair rock to grunge? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, seemed like it was overnight.
In fact. And then grunge, it seems like the life of grunge was almost as short. Literally, that was 3 years, but you could even argue if that was a real good quality.
You know what? I just thought of this, and we've never talked about it. I used to steal cable, and I never missed Headbangers Ball. Even if I had a party, it was on in the background. I think part of that was MTV, because all of a sudden I went from Poison and all those guys and Warrant and everybody, then all of a sudden it was all grunge dudes.
It was grunge dudes, and very quickly, you know what? You might be right, because very quickly it also went to all the reality shows, like Real World or whatever that show was.
Yeah, it was Real World.
We went from Real World to Beavis and Butthead, and
and they might have had a play in the grunge too, because, like I said, I saw Louder Than Love. I went out and bought it. Hey, I saw Pantera on there. I went out and bought it. Cowboys from Hell was the video, and all of a sudden, it was. Guns N' Roses and Nirvana and all those dudes dominated it. And I just wanted to see some, who were we listening to then? American Way. Oh God, dude, we wanted heavy metal. So we instantly judged all of them unfairly.
Well, what if Beavis and Butthead contributed? Because they sat there and made fun of a lot of these guys.
They did.
So maybe they contributed to
it. They still reference that in where Behind the Music now. They'll say Beavis and Butthead even made fun of them. I love that show.
Yeah, dude, I did too. My wife, when we first met, man, I hijacked our answering machine, because that was back in the day when you had a tape answering machine.
Oh yes.
And I changed our voicemails constantly to be.
I did too. TP for my bunghole.
Yeah. I'm going Julio. Oh, those are great times.
Oh, my God. I'm trying to look up the band that I was listening to, American Way. God, dude, I'm forgetting.
Hey, while you're doing that, you see Randy Rhoads is going to get recognized at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Dude, that shit pisses me off every year. That is so long overdue.
It's so
Talk
long.
about short-lived and changing the genre.
Well, no, you know what, though? I never really understood. So I'll be honest, this is the first year where it's like, you know what? If I'm going to bitch about the fact that certain artists like Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo, and I won't get started on that in this episode.
True.
But if they're not going to get in, then I need to really read the guidelines and understand how the voting is and how this all works.
That's a good point, man. And I never did.
And it's a piece of shit process. I'll just tell you. I sat there and I read it. And I was like, this whole thing is stupid. But anyway, so here's the thing, and this sucks. So if you are a solo artist, if you're literally listed as a solo artist, even if it's your band that plays with you your entire life, if you're a solo artist, your backing band will never qualify. And apparently, when Sharon's the one that gets blamed for this. When Ozzy went solo as Ozzy Osbourne, Sharon had him listed as a solo artist. So therefore, Randy was never eligible in the first place.
That might have had to do because of the contract with Black Sabbath and her dad.
Well,
oh my God, never thought of that. Wow.
Yeah, I read an article where Ozzy had said something, and I can't quote him, so I got to be careful how I paraphrase. But essentially, he kind of acknowledged that he's, I guess it's good that's being made right. But that's a stupid rule, anyways. You got guys like Brian Adams. I forget the guitarist's name. I have to look it up. But man, this guy's been with him the entire time.
You and I talked about Petty's guitar player.
Oh yeah, Mike Campbell. God, he's a phenomenal guitarist.
Yeah, here's the
thing. Tom Petty though, and the Heartbreakers, because Mike Campbell was a Heartbreaker. They went in, I think, in 2002. So Tom Petty wasn't a solo artist. So it was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. But here's the thing. I think Jay-Z's going in this year. So yeah, it just always makes me wonder: is it a pop music Hall of Fame or is it a rock and roll Hall of Fame?
I agree. No, and I'm a fan, but didn't call it like you said, the Music Hall of Fame or the Popular Music Hall of Fame or something.
Okay. So I had to look it up. So Keith Scott, that's Brian Adams' guitarist. He's been with him for forever. And another guitarist is Pink's guitarist, Justin Derrico. This cat is phenomenal.
Oh, wow.
And I want to do a series on my TikTok channel where I really try to bring attention to these guitarists that just because they're not part of a band that has a typical band name, I sometimes worry that we don't really pay as much attention to them as they deserve. This cat is phenomenal.
Oh, dude, amazing. And the girl that toured with Michael Jackson, I cannot remember her name. I just know what she looks like.
Jennifer Batten.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she is hands down. So somebody had asked me last week, if I could put together a super group, what I would do. And, that's one of those questions that, man, it just sends my brain into a spiral.
Me too.
But here's what I came up with. I said, okay, so I kind of took some liberty here because they kind of put it as 70s, 80s, and 90s is where I could draw the musicians from. So I took a big liberty because I said,
what's the criteria? Is it rock and roll?
No, any genre, anything.
Just a supergroup.
Yep, supergroup. So I said, okay. So first off, I'm going to go with a 2-drum format. So it's going to be Alex Lifeson, and my second drummer is going to be the Rev from Avenged Sevenfold.
Alex Lifeson's a guitar player.
I'm sorry, Alex Lifeson, Neil Peart.
Oh,
Neil
gotcha.
Peart. Yeah, thanks for catching me on that. So yeah, Neil Peart and
I was like, he plays the drums too,
and the Rev, and yeah. Avenged Sevenfold formed, I think, in '98, so it's a technicality. But those two drummers who I think are fabulous, and I would have loved to have seen them work together with complementary timings. And then let's see, I did John Paul Jones because I want a multi-instrumentalist in there.
Oh,
and for the bassist, I chose Bootsy. And I said, and then I went, and then I said, okay, so there's the foundation, man. That's your think tank right there.
Wow.
Because the Rev was a hell of a songwriter. Neil's a songwriter. John Paul Jones is a songwriter. Bootsy's mad rhythm. So bam, there's your foundation. Then I said, now the first thing I'm going to need is a guitarist that can bridge the gap. So I said, Jennifer Batten, because she can play R&B, she can play funk, she can play rock. She understands it all. Second guitarist, because I want a lead guitarist that's got some a really rhythmic but real kind of like sensual style of lead. I said Vivian Campbell was my second lead guitarist. And then this is where I struggle. So I'm thinking about the singer, and I wanted I thought about Bowie, and because I remember Neil talked about how when he plays drums and writes his part, he listens closely to the singer. He wants a dynamic singer. So I went, yeah, I'll give him Steve Perry. But then I took the entire horn section from Earth, Wind, and Fire and threw that in there. And I said, okay, this is either going to be just a cage match of epic proportions and it's going to suck.
That's exactly what was going through my mind. I said, they got too many ingredients in that soup.
Dude, it could be the coolest thing ever. But yeah, anyway.
I agree.
There it was.
I agree.
Yeah, Jennifer Batten's badass.
Oh, my God. You know what? You have such a valid point because my head is because I've been in so many bands playing so many instruments. I look at things like, and this is because being with you, when we played the funk, James Brown had such a awesome rhythm section.
Yes.
And then he had then that way he can just, pop, and they stayed the same. And another one would be like, who was we just talking about, where you got, AC/DC, where you have Malcolm and all them just doing the beat. And then you get, all of a sudden you get Brian Johnson or, the original singer, my favorite,
Bon Scott.
Oh my God.
Bon Scott.
That's going to blow my mind. It's going to make somebody mad listening.
Bon Scott.
Bon Scott, you're exactly right. And then you got Angus, but that rhythm, dude, every part of AC/DC, and you talk about basic, is freaking excellent. You just blew my mind because now you've opened the category to Bootsy. I don't even know who I would do. That's so good. Dude, Sly and the Family Stone, perfect band.
Think about it for a moment, man. Neil Peart with Bootsy Collins. Something funkalicious will come out of that.
Just Bootsy and Neil, man. Oh my God.
Well,
and then John Paul Jones.
Oh, dude. So there's somebody forwarded me some of the some clips of how they do the isolation tracks on studio mixes.
Yes.
So it's just it's John Bonham and John Paul Jones, and it's just like, oh my God, just these two together. This sounds so cool. God, we could go on and on about about that.
Oh, we need to round back up to Big Hair. I mean, the death of hair metal.
Yeah. There's the other thing too. I got asked, so we talked about Alex Van Halen. So the thing with hair rock is it was pretty much a guitar first type genre.
100%. With like we just talked about, with a strong backing, but it was definitely, in my opinion, vocal and guitar heroes.
But what were some of the other, what would be some other call out drummers that you would say from that era?
Would you throw Wasp in hair metal?
You're talking about Tony Richards. He started off in a band called Dante Fox, which would eventually become Great White. But Wasp as a hair band, there's part of me that wants to say no, but at the same time, look, Blackie Lawless, when I listen to him, I feel like he also, though, became the model for what a hair rock vocalist would sound like.
What about Stryper?
Stryper was hair, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a question about Wasp.
Queensryche, phenomenal drummer that we never talk about.
Scott Rockenfield.
Ever.
Yeah.
Dude, every member of that band was next level.
Oh, yeah.
And that's early 80s, where they did the opposite. They went from super heavy and shitty recording to really good recording, very excellent. Well, all the songwriting's good, but you can actually, I don't know if it was the producers, you can actually see the change in each album. No, you could tell in every album that it's Queensryche, but you can also tell that every album is completely different. I don't know if it's the same producer every album, or was that them just growing as a band?
I think it's them growing as a band,
Yeah. Production wise is, oh my God.
Yeah.
Operation Mindcrime. My God.
Dude, that is honestly, I hate ranking bands, musicians, and albums, but if I had to go to a desert island and somebody would only give me 5 albums, Operation Mindcrime's guaranteed
Is that your
spot.
opus? Yeah.
It's definitely in there. The Walls,
dude, and then Police went through a phase of large hair and very super commercialism.
See, that's what's sucked about the 80s. They did that to you think about Toto and Jefferson Starship and Heart. What the 80s did? The 80s did spoil some bands.
Steve Howe and when that came out, 90125, 901. It was just Did you like that album?
I did, but it's not. You got to keep in mind, prior to that, like I'd already been a Yes fan. In fact,
me too.
Huge Steve Howe fan.
Oh, me too.
And when it first came out, I did struggle because my loyalty to Steve, but there were elements in there that I thought were really cool. I just recently read the article on that right now, and it's fascinating how Trevor went to LA and he's shopping his demo around, and he got paired up with Chris Squire, who I think was just supposed to produce it, and then Chris started actually playing with it on it, and little by little they started pulling all the members of Yes, and John Anderson finally came on board, and
another amazing person.
And Trevor didn't want to be called Yes. He really was not comfortable with that because of Steve Howe, but they were like, "Nah, you're gonna call it Yes."
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I love that album.
It was actually just supposed to be. It was the whole thing. I think, if I understand correctly, not the whole thing, but I think like the bulk of it, that was Trevor's demo. That was.
It is. 100%. No, I did. Have you ever seen any of the movies that he did the music for?
Yeah,
oh,
he's phenomenal.
He's excellent. Did you ever see any Stuart Copeland's movies that he did them? Oh my, is that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Cool. Okay, I thought that was me. Something here. Yeah, man, dude, I did. I know. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours and hours, my brother. Dude, that album was a game changer because I was a huge Yes fan, and actually, I heard it and didn't realize who it was. Then I heard it was Yes with a new guitar player, and I never judged it. I never tried to compare it to anything with Steve Howe. Matter of fact, I wanted more.
Yeah, and then they did a tour after that where it was both of them.
Yeah, that's when I lived here. You are correct.
Yeah,
yes.
There was a period. It's funny. There was a period where like I was just so into Yes, and when I would pick up the guitar, I would literally try to pretend I was Steve Howe to the point where I'd get together with like my high school band, and I remember one time we're jamming and they stopped the song, and a dude looks at me and goes, "Dude, it's AC/DC.
See,
knock that shit off."
That brings us full circle because as a drummer, I could play some Yes. As a guitar player or bass player, who's the name of the bass player? Dear God,
Chris Squire. Yeah.
Oh, that's Chris. Okay, that's Chris Squire. Okay, John Anderson's the singer. Okay, gotcha. Okay, Chris Squire. My God, God. Roundabout. Oh, dude, songs like that and "Carry On My Wayward Son" by Kansas or anything by Styx just beat me down like a little bitch as a guitar player.
Anything by Styx, like even Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, I actually saw that. I saw that concert, man. Dude, that was awesome. I had free tickets or cheap tickets or something, and
I'll be honest. That one I go back and forth on. There's part of me because I love concept albums.
Yeah, and it wasn't like they played the whole album. It was like they played a couple songs that we suffered through to get onto, the million other kick-ass. Well,
here's the thing, and again, I love concept albums. I've got a weak spot for them. So there's elements where I'm just like, hey, mad props to you. I love their aspects of it. And then there's other parts where it's like, man, it sticks. I can't get into this. And it's the same thing with Journey's Raised on Radio. It is not my favorite Journey album, but I won't lie to you. And my wife Marie will tell you this. When a song comes on from Raised on Radio, I have to listen to it because in my mind, though, it is one of the best produced albums that I know of.
The production on those albums are sick.
It's phenomenal.
Know what? As far as concept albums, in my mind, when someone says it's a concept album, I automatically, like if you go to Expensive Steakhouse, I'm automatically, it better not suck because this is you're going into territory that few venture, and because you didn't have to call it a concept album. Matter of fact, I think a lot of albums are thrown together and they're like, oh yeah, it's a concept album, trying to be cool to sell it. Concept albums are to me, because the few that I cherish are gold standards, like Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall. Mr. Roboto was not. It was not the Grand. Was it the Grand Delusion? Is that the one, or the Grand Theater, or the Styx?
I don't think so. It's something about Killing Roy or something.
Can't think of but there's concept out. Operation Mindcrime, Perfection.
Oh, absolutely.
There's just a lot of.
Kilroy was here. The album was Kilroy was here, not Killing Roy.
Kilroy was here. Yeah. Oh my God, that was stupid. All the videos were stupid. Too Much Time on My Hands, which is a great song.
It is a great song.
That album.
Well, here's the thing. There's two primary definitions of a concept album, and this had to get explained to me because. Not too long ago, a couple years ago, I was looking through a list of concept albums. And for example, Iron Maiden's Seventh Son of a Seventh Son's on there. And I was like, that's a concept album? And it was explained to me that whenever a band breaks into a new concept, and you think about what Iron Maiden did with the synth guitars.
Do you like that album?
So here's the thing. I love like Somewhere in Time. I thought the synth guitars kicked ass.
Compared to Power Slave?
Yeah. I do like. You got to remember, I'm the guy that I do love concept albums. So when they broke out the synth guitars, I was like, okay, that's bold. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there's that definition of a concept album where, okay, they're experimenting with new ideas, which according to that definition, you could almost say that every other Rush album is a concept album. But then there's also the notion that the concept is like a story, a theme that carries through the entire album. So then you have like The Wall or Operation Mindcrime, the Eagles, Desperado, blah blah blah, etc. That's the definition that I most closely adhere to.
Man, to me, Moving Pictures is a fucking perfect album, and you could, I guess, throw the name concept album, but they don't. And that album is literally perfect. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. But here's the thing. I get sheepish when talking about that album because I've met Rush fans that are like, oh, dude, you're just saying that because that's their most popular album. That's an easy answer. And you know, I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that because it is. It's a fucking great album.
It is. It Spirit. What's the one? Permanent Waves. Great album.
Permanent Waves is an incredible album.
Not Hemispheres.
Well, yeah, you had Hemispheres.
What's the one
before
with,
that? Before that was Farewell to Kings, 2112, Crest of Steel.
Those are great albums, also, but they're not moving pictures. And I love Permanent Waves.
It's incredible.
And I even like the one without Neil Peart. What's with the owl on it?
Oh, that's Fly By Night.
You're thinking of Leppard.
You're thinking of Rush
with Working Man on it and all that.
Yeah, that's just Rush.
Great album.
That's just
Rush.
Rush.
But you know, Subdivisions is a great album. I saw that tour. That's almost a concept album. What's the one you and I talked about that no one likes but you and I do?
You talking about Power Windows?
Power Windows. I love that album.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't say nobody likes it. I mean, I loved Power Windows, but if I'm being honest, it took me, I probably had to play through it a couple times before I really got the vibe of it. You know, if especially if you're coming off of, like, man, I spent so much time playing moving pictures. Power Windows is just different, you know. Now, mind you, there's several albums in between the two, but I think Power Windows, I don't think of it as so much as a concept album as much as it was just reflective of what music was like at that time, and they were kind of playing with some ideas. To me, a concept album is like Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon, Final Cut.
Perfectly laid out, but concept albums. I see the similarity between the songs, the theme, I guess, you know. Is that people texting you, or is that your live chat?
Well, no. It is, but I thought I turned off notifications on my computer, so I don't know. I'm like, whoa, why is it still doing this to me? No, it's my daughter, Jessica. She's trying to get a hold of me.
You want me to text her and tell her to shut up?
You know what, dude? She actually loves you, so she'd find the humor in it. But if you were somebody that she didn't know or didn't like, man, she'd put a post on Instagram, and you'd get blown up by like 1 million people.
I don't want, yeah. Then she'll have people call my house.
Dude, did I ever tell you what happened when, sorry about that, man. But did I ever tell you what happened to her when she had her dog stolen? She got it back. So...
where in LA does she live? You've told me before.
Well, when this happened, she was around the Beverly Hills area. Now she's like literally like right in downtown Hollywood, like literally right next to the Capitol Records.
Oh, that's right. You said you would get up every morning and the building's right out there. That's so cool, man.
So I shouldn't say stolen. You never know what the circumstances were. But anyways, what we noticed on the camera is she had her dog out there and they have a gate. Well, one of the people she was living with left the front gate open, so Zeus kind of like stood there by the gate. A car stopped. A lady got out and she picked up Zeus, and she kind of just poked her head in the gate and looked around. But rather than actually calling to see if anybody was there, she just took Zeus and got in her car and drove away. So, you know, we put the video online. We put it out there. Jesse, you know, notified her fan base or her follower base. Well, eventually we found out who this person was, and they weren't responding. I guess she just got like annihilated online by people going after her, so she took her Facebook down. Yeah, and I actually felt bad for her, you know, because at first I was really angry. It's like, look, just give the dog back. But I think she must have paid a heavy price.
Wow, what kind of dog?
Pomeranian.
Oh, they're so cute.
Oh, man. He is. And yeah, I've got to show you a picture of him sometime because he's got this one little eye that's a little bit, you know, cockeyed. He looks like Marty Feldman. You remember Marty Feldman, right?
Oh, what a dude. Young Frankenstein, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome.
Well,
man, do you want to summarize?
Because we kind of go, I always we go off topic. So,
Grunge, in my opinion, if I had to summarize, I think after we've discussed it, I let your fans respond. I think grunge, because I'll make my statement, then I'll justify it with my point. I think grunge was a marketing thing. I think some record dude went to Seattle, saw everybody's wearing the same clothes. The scene was alive. The scene was fresh. He's been trying to get people in LA to sign, you know, new bands to sign, but they were just copycats of everybody else that was already there with the spandex and the big hair. Inadequate musicians just trying to slide by with the look and the style instead of the music. And here's this unheard of outside of, I would bear to say, not just Seattle, but probably all of, you know, Oregon. I mean, Seattle, the whole state, and saying this is unique. and then labeled it himself as grunge, and then MTV and everybody just jumped on the bandwagon and just ruined it quickly for the world. Because, and to validate that, I don't think Soundgarden sounds like Alice in Chains. I don't think either of them sound like Nirvana. They're, even the only similarity is they each, Soundgarden has two guitars. Sometimes Chris Cornell played guitar. So it wasn't, there was no similarities in my mind, except the location and somewhat the style, because Metallica was already wearing jeans and ripped t-shirts. And so was, pretty much most of the bands I listened to. Sacred Reich was the other band from San Francisco that I was trying to think of, the American Way that I was listening to. I was waiting for Sacred Reich videos when I was bombarded with grunge and videos on Headbangers Ball. I was waiting for Sacred Reich and bands like that. But and I think the country just jumped on it. Like you said, they were sick of the war and everything, and just it was like something different. And I don't think I think it was pure marketing, and hair metal was just not bringing in the revenue it was a few years earlier. Motley Crue was almost on the way out, even though they're still relevant today, but they weren't breaking in the number one, number two. The LA scene was just kind of stale, and they needed something fresh. Like I swear to you, Dean, the Raleigh scene was pretty hardcore, but I don't think it was nationally marketable, to hold a national audience.
Yeah. And I think my summary would be, I think we're on the same page. I think after 10 years of hair band, there could be an element that maybe the market wanted something fresh. You had the Persian Gulf War had taken place around 91. Maybe that created a darker air, so people just were in the mood for happy party rock. Yes. But yeah, I tend to also agree. I think there's a big marketing element at play here. I think you probably had some, you've heard me say there's a difference between the music business and music, and the business has nothing to do with talent. And I think you probably 100%. Think you probably had some, execs go to the Seattle area and say, hey, look, we've got a bunch of, young, new, green bands here, and let's sign them to contracts, and we'll find ways to exploit them and whatnot. And I don't know, you can't tell me there was not a business or industry manipulative element to this. You just can't. I
agree, man. You know what I just remembered as you were saying that is I was so, because like I said earlier in the podcast, is I was very I would not partake at all in the grunge thing. I just didn't give a shit. And I remember also at the time I was desperate for something new because like I said, Sacred Reich, that I already had both their albums, and that's why I started diving into industrial and stuff like that, because nothing was scratching that itch. And by the time, like I said, I came around, I was like, damn, those are good musicians, and those are good songs.
Dude, there's some great musicians in there. In fact, we could carve out time on the next episode to talk about guys like Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, what do you think of him, real quick?
Oh, dude, he's phenomenal. In fact, you can find videos on YouTube of him shredding when he was a teenager in the 80s.
And a good producer, and a good his voice, his songs, everything. And I also agree, to summarize what you said earlier also, is grunge was very short-lived because, in my opinion, it really wasn't real. And to contain a classification on a group of bands and try and group of bands that aren't similar, in my opinion, they grew wings, and Mad Season sounds nothing like Alice in Chains or Pearl Jam, and it's Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam.
And that's the thing.
That album is fucking awesome, man.
And to summarize, I guess my point is, you for 10 years, let's just say it was a decade, you had hair rock. For all intents and purposes, over that 10-year period, the formula remained unchanged. The new bands that came in sounded like the bands that came before them, and so on. Grunge, it's like once they got mainstream, it's almost like they did everything they could to break away from that sound that got them there. Nobody wanted to come in sounding like grunge. They all wanted something different. So that right there tells me that there was some other force that pushed all this. It was never about the music.
Dude, we should hug. We should hug. We should press our faces against the monitors and just touch cheeks.
Next time.
No, I agree.
Think about this. Next time, maybe we should talk about the Metallica Black album and how that divided Metallica fans.
Dude, I have a lot to say about it, but I will prequel it with that was the One album I did not buy and have not bought Metallica since, not because I don't like Metallica, but I agree that's a good subject because that was a game changer. And I'm on both sides of the fence on that and have a lot to say about it.
Cool. All righty, dude.
All right, my brother.
We're going to wrap up. Love you too. Later.
Later, man.